Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture in the Neural Networks from Scratch series. Today we are going to look at the difference between testing and validation data. In the previous lecture, we looked at the importance of test data and we also saw why it is important to not just train the neural network but to make sure that the neural network generalizes well on new data which it has not seen before. We looked at what is overfitting. So during the training process, if the neural network tries to fit the noise in the underlying training data and it memorizes the data, it will generally not do well on test data. This happens mostly for complex models. The more complex a model is, the more the chance for overfitting and the poor the generalization will be. The simpler the model is, the less the chance for overfitting and generally the good the generalization performance will be. Today we are going to look at another type of data which is called testing and validation data. So there is a difference between the testing data set and the validation data set which all of you need to be aware about. To understand the difference between the testing and the validation dataset, we first need to look at the neural network and the hyperparameters of the neural network. Let's say the problem which we are trying to solve is this classification task, where this is the input dataset, and the task which I have is to develop a neural network which will classify any given new point in this dataset as belonging to red, green, or blue. So this is a three class classification problem, and let's say this is the neural network architecture. Now when we construct a neural network, there are a number of hyperparameters. Hyperparameters are the parameters which don't change during the training process. We have to set them before the training starts. So some of the hyperparameters include the number of layers in the neural network, then the number of units in the neural network is another hyperparameter. The number of units in each layer is another hyperparameter. Then the activation functions in each layer is another hyperparameter. Should it be ReLU? Should it be TANH? Should it be sigmoid? Should it be softmax? Some more hyperparameters are also related to the optimizers. So if we use the ADAM optimizer, the beta 1 is one parameter, beta 2 is another parameter. And remember, the step size which we have is alpha naught divided by 1 plus dk into time. So beta 1, beta 2, alpha naught dk, all of these are hyperparameters, and even the number of epochs are the hyperparameters. So as you can see, there are a lot of hyperparameters which we need to decide before we start training the neural network. Now the question is, how do we decide what are the optimal parameters to use? How do we decide what are the optimal hyperparameters to use? So to make that decision, we need another data set, right? So that we can test out different hyperparameters in on that data set. And this data set is called as the validation data. So remember, test data is different. Test data is completely new data on which we'll test the trained model. Validation data is that data which is used to finalize the hyperparameters of the neural network. So testing dataset is used to test our neural network on new unseen data. Validation dataset is that dataset which is used to optimize the hyperparameters of the neural network before the training process starts. And these hyperparameters can include layers, neurons, activation functions, epochs, and learning rates. Now the question is, how do we split the entire dataset into training, testing, and validation? There are usually two ways we can do this. The first case is that we have lots of data. So if we have a huge amount of data, we will divide the data into three types or three subsets. The first subset is for the training data set, the second subset is for the validation data, and the third is for the test data. So what we'll be doing is that we'll first start with the validation data, and we will experiment with a bunch of hyperparameters, and then we'll choose the hyperparameters which give the best performance on the validation data. Using these hyperparameters, we'll train the neural network and we'll finalize the weights and the biases in the neural network. Using this trained neural network, then we'll test on new unseen data. However, as you can see, here we need to split the data into three subsections. This implies that we need large amount of data, which might be a problem. In many real life machine learning scenarios, collection of data itself is quite hard, and we should not assume that we will have lots of data. This brings us to the second case where we have a limited amount of data. If we have a limited amount of data, what people generally do is that they break the data set down into just two subsections: the training and the testing. So let's say the training consists of 80% of the data, and for testing we reserve 20% of the data. So your question would be, what is used for validation? This is where a strategy called k-fold cross validation comes into the picture. In many modern machine learning frameworks where data is limited, k-fold cross validation is used. Let me explain to you with an example of k equal to 5. So when k equal to 5, I'll show you 5-fold cross validation. So what is generally done is that we look at the training data set itself, and within the training data set we use the validation data. So what we'll be doing first of all is we'll be doing 5 folds, or we'll be doing 5 iterations. So I have marked them as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over here. In each iteration, one fraction of the data is reserved for validation and the remaining is used for training. For example, in the first fold or the first iteration, this B, C, D, and E is reserved for training, and part A is reserved for validation. So imagine the training data set is broken down into 5 parts: A, B, C, D, and E. In the first iteration or the first fold of the 5-fold cross validation, part A is used for validation, and part B, C, D, and E is used for training. So we train the model and then we find the error on this validation data set. And that is the validation error, which is E1. Then what we do is that we use part B as validation, and then part A, C, D, and E is used for training. That error on the part B is the validation error number 2, and it's called E2. Similarly, in the third fold or the third iteration, part C is used for validation, and part A, B, D, and E are used for training. That leads to the third validation error, which is E3. Then in the fourth fold, part D is used for validation, and part A, B, C, and E are used for training. This leads to the fourth validation error, which is E4. And finally, the last part, which is the part E, that is used for validation, and A, B, C, and D are used for training. And that leads to the validation error of E5. So overall, if you see, I'll zoom out a bit here. Overall, if you see, we are doing this 5-fold cross validation: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we get 5 errors, 5 validation errors: E1, E2, E3, E4, and E5. So then the final validation error is an average of these 5. So which is 1 by 5 of E1 plus E2 plus E3 plus E4 plus E5. Now, what we do in practice is that we find this validation error for multiple set of hyperparameters, and then we will choose the hyperparameters which give us the lowest error. So for example, if you want to experiment with three three layer sizes, the first is a layer. First you say I want 2 layers, second I want 3 layers, and then third, let's say I want 5 layers. First you start with this 2 layer approach, and then you find this mean validation error. Then you do the 3 layer, find the mean validation. Then you do the 5 layer and find the mean validation error. Then you choose that layer, those number of layers which give you the lowest validation error among the three, lowest mean validation error among the three. So this should be rather called as the mean validation error. Similarly, you will be doing this test for all the different hyperparameters, and then choose those hyperparameters which will give you the lowest error. This is the smart way of dividing the training data itself into different validation data sets if the data available to you is limited. And it's very commonly used in practice, and it's called k-fold cross validation. Right now I showed you 5 folds, right? So that was 5-fold cross validation, but generally in practice I have also seen 10-fold cross validation. which is employed. And then after the validation is performed and after the hyperparameters are finalized, then we do the training. We optimize the weights and the biases of the neural network, and finally we do the testing on new unseen data using the optimized weights and neural network biases. So this is how the validation data is constructed in case 1 where we have lots of data, and in case 2 where we have limited data. In the last part of this lecture, I want to briefly explain about this terminology which is called as data leakage. Data leakage generally comes up in production level machine learning problems, but it is important for beginners and for intermediate learners to be aware of this. So, generally, the best practice is to keep the training data and the testing data completely different from each other. So, let's say if I write here that this is the training data, and let's say if I write here that this is the testing data, there should be no intersection between the training data and the testing data, because remember, in testing data we will use new unseen data. So the training data should not have the test data, otherwise the training data will be biased and we will not do good performance on new data. Data leakage happens when there is this kind of an intersection between training and the testing data. So if the training data accidentally contains some samples from the testing data or some information about the testing data, then it's not good, because the training data will give a good performance because it already has some test data. But if we use data which is new and unseen, such as in these regions, the model will perform very badly, because the training data will optimize itself with that portion of the test data which is available to it, and this is called as data leakage. Remember, the training and the testing data should be completely separate from each other. Let me give you an example of this. Let's say you are designing a machine learning algorithm whose main task is that you have customer details such as their name, the amount of time they spend on your website, their age, their demographic, etc. And your task is to predict whether the customer will take the product or not. An example of data leakage would be if you accidentally use a feature called as customer cancellation call in your training. This is an example of data leakage, because if this feature is yes and you're using this in your training, this automatically means that that person will not take the product. So you already have information of the testing in the training itself, and that is not good, because ideally you want to test on completely new data. So let me explain this again. Let's say you have the customer details, and the features are, let's say name is one feature, then let's say age is one feature, then the amount of time which they spent on your website is another feature. But accidentally, if you also include this feature, did the customer give a call for cancellation, yes or no? If you include this feature, then let's say the answer to this feature is yes for one particular customer, then you automatically know that the customer will not take the product. So your machine learning algorithm will not even look at these other features, and it will just look at this feature and do the prediction. Now if a new data is given to the machine learning algorithm, it will not have, let's say if this feature is not there in that new data, then it will not be able to make the prediction, right? So this is an example where testing somehow leaks into the training, and that is an example of data leakage. The reason it's an example of data leakage is because it already provides information regarding whether the customer will take the product or not in the training data. We need to avoid data leakage at all costs when we are training a machine learning algorithm. In the next set of lectures, we are going to look at L1 regularization, L2 regularization, and dropout, and we will code these in Python. Thank you so much, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.